But one of the main reasons why I do this is because I remember what it was like sitting in your seat. I remember what it was like walking into this assembly. And I remember what it was like saying to myself, my daddy, he's a politician, my mom, he's in corporate America, we own a few homes. This story doesn't pertain to me. I remember what it was like walking in here, sitting in my seat, saying I've scored 2,000 points, I'm a McDonald's All-American, I'm ranked 9th in the United States in basketball. I'm being recruited by every school in America. All I do on weekends is drink and smoke. That's where it begins and that's where it will end. I'll never be that guy. At 18 years old, after being recruited by every school in the United States, I decided to stay home and go local at Boston College. So at 18 years old, I stepped on that campus, and at 18 years old, Sports Illustrated called me. And Sports Illustrated said, there's a chance you're going to be on the cover of our magazine. It's between you, Allen Iverson, Ray Allen, and Felipe Lopez. So us 4 guys went down to Faneuil Hall. I did my photo shoot. 3 weeks later, they released the issue. They gave the cover to Felipe Lopez, but they gave me a 2-page picture inside that magazine with Faneuil Hall in the background. Dream come true for a kid from Fall River, Massachusetts, which made my family, my friends, my teammates, administration at Boston College, and my coach and staff proud, so they threw a little get-together for me on campus. And that night, at that get-together, my coach put his arm around me, said congratulations, and he said, Christopher, do me a favor. Same place, same time tomorrow night. I said, for what, coach? We have a speaker. About what, coach? Substance abuse. Former NFL football player, played at Boston College, lost everything due to crack cocaine. I said, no, coach. I've had way too many speakers about drugs and alcohol. I'm going to sit this one out. He said, you can't. If you do, I'm going to suspend you your first game. So reluctantly, I walked in, sat in the back. I had the nerve to talk while the man talked. I had the nerve to judge his story. But at 18 years old, I truly believed I was above it. And how ironic it was for me that night, walking out of that gymnasium with 2 of my basketball teammates, talking about meeting up later to drink and to smoke. 5 minutes later, I got down to my dorm room. When I opened my dorm room door, my roommate and a young freshman girl was sitting at my desk. As soon as I opened that door, their body shifted. When their body shifted, I knew they were hiding something, so I walked up to see what they were hiding, expecting to see blunts, marijuana on my desk. Instead, I saw a big pile of cocaine. At 18 years old, I had never seen cocaine. So in a panic, I started walking out of my room. As I'm walking out of my room, the 18-year-old girl sitting at my desk said, where you going? Come back, it's not going to kill you. So like the big, insecure, tough guy I was, I walked back in to prove myself. Sat back down, looked at the little girl, and I said, I know it's not going to kill me. She said, I know you're scared. I was scared my first time. Just put a little bit on your finger, put a little bit on your gums, your mouth's going to get numb. That's it. I did that. I did that having no idea that she challenged me one more time. 2 minutes later, she chopped up 3 lines of cocaine. She pushed them out. She rolled up a $1 bill and she gestured. I'm here today to tell you from the bottom of my heart. At 18 years old, I looked at 1 line of cocaine on my dorm room desk at Boston College. And I said to myself, I'll do this drug one time, I'll never do it again. I took the $1 bill, I did the line of cocaine, I got up and I walked right out of my room. I had no idea. I had no idea when I promised myself one time, 1 line, that one time would take 14 years to walk away from. I had no idea I'd be 32 years old with 2 beautiful children, a wife who was 8 months pregnant, before I could finally let go of that $1 bill. I had no idea that 1 line of cocaine would get me kicked off Boston College's campus just 4 months later for 3 failed drug tests. I had no idea that monster would follow me for the next 3 years, 3,000 miles away on the campus of Fresno State. At 22 years old, I was able to reach my dream despite my history. At 22 years old, I became a Boston Celtic. I'm proud of that. Me and my wife threw a little celebration at our home in Fall River for all our high school friends. And a kid who I've known since I was 6 walked into my yard, tapped me on my shoulder, and he said, Christopher, let's take a walk. So I took it. on that walk. He said, remember we were in high school and every once in a while we could get our hands on Vicodins and painkillers and Percocets? I said, of course. There's this new pill, I want you to try it. It's like taking 4 Vicodins, 4 hydrocodones in one shot. He reached in his pocket, he pulled out the Ziploc bag, in that Ziploc bag were these little yellow pills. He said, these are 40 milligram Oxycontin. They're $20. Do you want to try them? In 1999, at 22 years old, I never heard that word. So I reached in my pocket, I handed him a 20, he dropped that little yellow pill in the palm of my hand, I looked at it and I laughed. I said, you gotta be kidding me, man. I threw it into my mouth and I went back to my cookout. I had no idea that that decision that day was about to change my life forever. I had no idea that that 40 milligram pill would turn to 1,600 milligrams a day. That I'd wake up taking 1080s, and I'd go to bed taking 1080s just to make it through my day without feeling sickness. I had no idea that the $20 I spent that day on that one little yellow pill, that $20 would turn to $25,000 a month. OxyContin had it. I had no idea. That just 2 years later, that little yellow pill in the palm of my hand that cost me $20, that little yellow pill would turn into a needle. And that needle would stay on my arm for the next 6 years straight. They didn't tell me that when I spent 20 bucks on a little yellow pill called OxyContin. I travel around the country doing this for many reasons. But one of the main reasons why I do this is because I remember when I was your age. I remember drinking at the house where the parents told us it was safe. I remember going out into the woods where the police can't find us. And I remember taking advantage of the families who went on vacation. And I remember at the end of the night drinking with my buddies. I remember at the end of the night, as I was worried about walking into my front door smelling like liquor and marijuana, I'd look across the room as I'm trying to get myself together to walk past my mom and dad. I'd look across the room in that basement, and I'd see my friends who don't drink and who don't smoke. The ones who are normally soft, normally the joke of the party. I'd look across the room and I'd see those kids, and I'd say to myself, those kids have something I'm missing. There's something special inside those kids that I don't have. How come they can be here on Fridays and Saturday nights and never have to change themselves? And how come I do? How come being me is not enough? I knew at your age that I was gonna have to find that kid across the room. And it took me till I was 32 years old. My son, little Christopher, is 14. I speak to you like I would want him spoken to. People often say to me, what are you gonna do when little Chris comes home and he's drunk or high for the first time? What am I gonna do? I'm gonna be devastated. I'm gonna go into my little boy's room, I'm gonna ask him who he went out with, he's gonna tell me his friends. And I'm gonna say, Christopher, how come you can't look at your friends in the eye and say, you know my dad's story, he's a recovering alcoholic addict, which makes me 40 times more likely to suffer like the daddy I had to watch growing up. So why is my friend, would you ever put anything in front of me to go down that road? You can't look at your friends and say it's in your family. You can't look at your friends and say, why would you want me to suffer? One of the most commonly asked questions when I do this is, Mr. Herren, you don't think weed and alcohol are gateway drugs, do you? I can tell you this today. As a heroin addict for 6 years, OxyContin for 2, the people I associated with were hardcore drug addicts. And I never met one hardcore drug addict that told me they started with crack or heroin. We all start off smoking blunts and drinking beer. We all start off in the basement playing beer pong, asking our older brother to go to the liquor store. We all start off in the basement where the parents tell us it's safe. That's the first page of every drug addict story. The red Solo cup and the blunt. Believe that. They wrote a book about my high school basketball team called Forever Dreams. They wrote that book when I was 16 years old. That book featured 15 of my high school teammates. Our parents were doctors, lawyers, politicians, nurses, teachers, guidance counselors. Out of the 15 kids they featured in that book, Forever Dreams, 7 of us became heroin addicts. Our parents were doctors, lawyers, and politicians. I never heard one friend say at the high school party smoking a blunt and drinking out of red Solo cups. I never heard one friend say, I can't wait to get kicked out of Columbia. I can't wait to get thrown off campus at BC. I can't wait to stick a needle in my arm. I never heard one friend say that at the high school party. And it happened to 7 of us. I recently spoke at a prep school, I would say very similar to this. I recently spoke, and when I stepped on campus, they told me I hadn't a lot of time, I can only go this much. Okay? So I walked in and told her, and we did a little Q&A. And as I was walking out, there were kids outside waiting and wanting to talk. And when I got to my car, there was a little boy in his tie, Vineyard Vines, blazer, sitting on my trunk. As I walked up to the car, he started crying. That little boy was about 6'5". He was 18 years old. That little boy said, Mr. Herren, I need a favor. I need you to take this away from me. He reached in his backpack, he pulled out this sunglass case. When I opened it, it was gummy bears. I said, what's up with the gummy bears? He said, me and my roommates, we cook up Perk 30s and Valiums. We break it down to a liquid. And we let the gummy bears soak in and we eat them in class all day. That little boy who was crying his eyes out to me, begging me to take gummy bears away from him, he said, if you don't take these away from me, I'm gonna die. We took the gummy bears, called his dad, he drove in from New York to pick them up. That little boy went to rehab, that little boy's back on campus. I started a foundation called Project Purple. Project Purple is an anti-substance abuse campaign to educate our kids, to raise awareness, to create a sober culture within our school system. Project Purple comes from this little high school where these 3 kids sat in the front row and they were wearing purple shirts. I wondered who the kids were in the purple shirts, and at the end of my talk, this kid, he raised his hand. When I called on him, he stood up. He said, Mr. Herren, I want to thank you for coming to my high school and finally validating what me and my friends do. I said, what do you do? He said, we're the sober students at this high school. When he said sober students, I walked up to give him a big high five and a hug. As I'm doing that, I hear the laughter break out. I look at the kids laughing and I said, shame on you. I looked at the kids now and they were sitting with their head in their hands. The only words that could come out of my mouth that day, looking at those kids, was I wish. I wish I never had to change myself. I wish on Fridays and Saturday nights I could be me. I wish I didn't need to put substances in my body to make me feel like I was somebody different. The question I have for you, the question I have for you to ponder over throughout the day when you go back to class or go home for homework, just ask yourself, what is it about me? How come on Fridays and Saturday nights I'm not enough? How come I'm not cool enough, tough enough, brave enough? put substances in my body to make me feel like somebody different. Every kid in this auditorium right now, in this chapel, has a purpose, a dream, to become something special. Mine was the Boston Celtics. My dream was to be a pro. I reached that dream. I reached that dream and I lost it because I forgot what was most important. Be a pro at being you before you ever think of being a pro at anything else. Be a pro at being you. I recently spoke at a school in Indiana where these 4 boys in this Catholic school invited me to their school because they saw my 30 for 30. I took pictures with these 4 boys on stage. They were baseball players at this school. The first week of school this year, the principal called me and said, Mr. Herren, do me a favor, send me a video message to my school. I said, about what? He said, we had a tragedy. What's the tragedy? One of the 4 boys on the baseball team's parents went away on vacation right before school started. So they decided to throw a little keg party for their high school friends. At that keg party, one of those 4 boys got sick to his stomach. He was so embarrassed, he went way out in the backyard to throw up in the bushes. As he's throwing up in the bushes in the backyard, his friends are looking for him. Half hour later, they find him laying down on the grass in the bushes around throw up. So they pick their best friend up. They bring him in the house, they clean him up, carry him upstairs, put him to bed, put the blanket, little bucket just in case, close the lights, go downstairs, finish the party at 2:30. At 2:30 in the morning, after they cleaned up downstairs, they went upstairs to check on their best friend. As soon as they flipped the light on, the vomit was covering his face. He choked and died in bed that night. He choked and died in bed that night as his best friends partied below him. Music too loud to hear him. One night, one day, 3 lives ruined. All because of red Solo cups. The 3 boys were facing accessory to murder charge for carrying him upstairs in that condition, which led to his death. One night, one day, 3 lives ruined, all because red Solo cups. See, the culture today is prescription medication. And I can go around and I can tell my story, and when I mention OxyContin, and I mention Perk 30s, and I mention Adderall, and Molly's, and Xanax, and Valium, kids don't flinch. Don't flinch. When I talk about sticking a needle in my arm or smoking crack cocaine, you flinch. See, the problem with that is this. The pills that you kids see at your parties, the ones you have access to, are killing twice as many people per year than heroin and cocaine combined in the United States. The pills. The pills are killing twice as many people per year than heroin and cocaine combined in the United States. Every 19 minutes, someone will drop dead from popping a pill. It's the #1 cause of accidental death in the United States. Popping pills. I recently spoke at a prestigious university where this boy who looks just like you, walked up to me and said, Mr. Herren, I'm going to go into Major League Baseball next year. I'm a pitcher. I'm going to get drafted. But 2 years ago, I had arm surgery and I got addicted to painkillers. Now, I shoot heroin. I'm addicted to heroin, Mr. Herren, can you help me? I said, of course I can. Sit on the stage, I'm going to take you to dinner. I took him to dinner. I told him to keep in touch with me. The next time I heard that boy's voice, his name, his mom hugged me as I was walking out of a speaking event. She whispered in her ear. She whispered in my ear and she said his name. When I looked at her, she started crying and she said, he came home for break. I thought he was in the shower. He took too long. When I opened the door, he was on the ground with the needle in his arm. I promise you, when that little boy was going out on Fridays and Saturday nights just 4 years earlier, it was never his intention to be on the bathroom floor with the needle in his arm. Today's an opportunity. Today's a chance to tell on a friend who struggles. There's kids in this room right now who struggle. It's a fact. It's how it is everywhere. It's how it was at Harvard, that's how it was at Yale, that's how it was at West Point. It's how it is. Today's a chance for you to tell on us. I do this, share my story to inspire others to talk about theirs. I wish I told on my friends. And I wish my friends told on me. Because in all reality, some of you are sitting in here right now. And you're thinking about that friend who struggles. You're thinking about the kid who takes it too far. And you know who he is. And it's up to you to stand up for him. I wish I told on my friends. I recently spoke to the University of Alabama, Nick Saban and his team. In the back of the room, there was one of their running backs. He raised his hand. He said, Mr. Herren, you know, the drug testing policy in NCAA is marijuana. I said, I'm well aware of that. He said, well, why don't you tell them to stop testing us for it because it's just weed. I said, okay. But your whole life you've been working to get to this moment. You've lifted weights for 15 years, you've taken hits, you've run sprints, you've done study hall, and here you are, right where you want to be. And you're going to throw it all away for something you call just weed. It's not just weed, and it's not just blunts. It's just you can't be you 24/7. If you were good enough being you 24/7, there'd be no need for the substances. You'd get through this. You'd let the hard work pay off, and you'd live out your dream. My son, as I said, little Chris is 14. I go to bed every night and I hit my knees. I thank God for keeping me sober. I've been sober for 5.5 years, and I thank God every single night for keeping me sober one day at a time. And then I pray to God every night. I pray to God that my son walks out of my house on Friday night and he feels good enough as himself. That's what my prayer is for my children. That they can walk out of my house on Friday night in Portsmouth, Rhode Island and say, Dad, I'm good enough tonight. Why would I rely on any substance? Being me's enough, Dad. That's my prayer for my kids. As I said in the beginning, I played for the Boston Celtics. I scored 2,000 points. I was Massachusetts Player of the Year for 3 years in a row. All that stuff, who cares? The only record I'm proud of, is that for the last 5.5 years, I woke up every single morning and put myself to bed every single night. And I did not have to count on a substance. I've walked through every single day for the last 5.5 years as me. And that's enough. The kids who are going to college, I was just with two special ones. One going to Yale and the other one going to Amherst. And when I was a sophomore in college, and I try to live up to this, When I was a sophomore in college, I was signing autographs after a basketball game. And a coach who I really respected and looked up to, he walked up to me as I was signing autographs. And he said, "If you were a kid, would you look up to you?" And I turned and looked at him. And I said, "No." "So why are you signing autographs? Leave those kids alone. There's kids in here that will go on to college. And today I try to live by that. If I was a kid, would I look up to you?" Almost every kid in this room right now, for what you've accomplished, to be at this school, should be able to say yes. Should be able to say yes. But a lot of you can't. I can tell you this. I do this 250 times a year. I had to do it differently today because we're on a time constraint. But when I said, I wish I never had to change myself, I wish I was like those kids over there, because those kids have something I'm missing. How come they can be here as themselves and I can't? Some of you get that, because you got real uncomfortable when you see it. This isn't about me. This is more about you. This is about self-esteem, self-confidence, self-respect. This is about the kids who can walk into that party and never have to change themselves. Today, those kids are my heroes. Those kids are my heroes. Those are the kids I want my children to become. The ones who can be themselves.